As my wife Pam and I have been doing marriage ministry for the last 10 years, there's a pattern that we have noticed over and over again of couples who get well. Couples, we've seen so many of them move from points of really serious pain to incredible health and oneness. And always there's four things that show up in their story. And so what I wanted to do was lay out those four things and then ask you to think about the couples that you're working with. Think about them individually and think about which one of these four areas they would need to take ground in. So as you listen, think about the individual couples that you're working with and which one of these areas they need to grow in. Always when couples get well, when you roll the clock back and you look at what happened, part of their story, part of the healing was that there was a renewed spiritual vitality. So sometimes it would be people that had come to Christ. Other times it would just be that people in a renewed way have a passion for God's word or a passion to obey and live out their faith. And so you can think about passages like John 15, which talk about abiding, or 1 Corinthians 10:31, where we're just commanded to do everything for the glory of God. And so couples will see their marriage as a spiritual act of worship, and they will begin to kind of work out their faith inside of their marriage and seek to please and honor God in their marriage. And so always that will show up, that first characteristic being a renewed kind of spiritual vitality. So the second characteristic of couples who get well is that they see themselves as their biggest marriage problem, and they will ruthlessly begin to work on themselves. And so we think about passages like Matthew 7:3-5, which command us to get the log out of our own eye. It's the first step of conflict. It's the first step of kind of restoring a marriage. We talk about just kind of drawing a circle around ourselves and fixing everyone inside of it. And so couples that get well, that even though they're very aware of the issues and the problems with their spouse, or they initially will see them as the biggest problem, couples that get well will see themselves individually as the biggest problem and begin to kind of work on themselves and give themselves fully just to fixing themselves and making sure that they themselves are honoring God rather than focusing so much on their spouse. And so the third characteristic that we see over and over again with couples that get well is that they are ruthlessly committed to their marriage. And so you think about passages like Matthew 19:6, which says that it is God who joins us together. And so because that's the case, we're not to separate it. So surely we chose each other, but really God kind of supernaturally put us together, and we are not to separate that. And so the image, or the kind of the metaphor that we use with couples, is that of kind of being in a room with lots of open doors. And so in any marriage, there's a lot of possibilities other than working on our marriage that exist. One of those doors that a couple could walk through would be an affair. They could either have a physical or an emotional affair, and either exit the relationship or just move in and out of that door, in and out of the relationship. Another one would be that they could just give themselves kind of completely to their work or some other hobby or something like that. And rather than investing in their marriage, they'd give themselves fully there. Another one would be that they would just figure out a way to live as just undivorced. They're not going to invest in their marriage. They're going to give their best energies elsewhere and just kind of do just enough to keep it together without working on it and giving it the full attention, the full energy that it deserves. And so what we tell couples is to walk around to each of those doors and just kind of metaphorically lock them shut. Take all those options off the table. And so when that happens, that frees us up to really work on our marriage. When we're not thinking about what other options we have, our only option becomes to work on our marriage. And stats, research, studies will show that when a couple makes that fundamental shift, good things will happen. The path will always be different, but when a couple takes divorce and any of those other options off the table, they will fix their marriage. So the fourth thing, just the fourth characteristic of couples that get well, this one has a lot to do with the way couples continue to walk in oneness, is that they're fully known by others. They're connected to others in relationships. They're not isolated. Over and over again, couples that come to see me that are struggling, that are hurting in their marriage, aren't fully known by other folks. No one else knows their story. No one else knows how they got there. And couples that are doing well are often really known by others. So we think about verses like Hebrews 10:24. The reason we come together is to spur one another on towards love and good deeds. Or 1 Thessalonians 5:14 says that we're to encourage, to admonish, to be patient, and to help each other. All those things are done in the context of community. And so when we have a circle of friends who know us well, who are encouraging us, and also love us enough to tell us the truth, we tend to pursue oneness with our spouse. So those are the four characteristics. One, that there's a renewed spiritual vitality. Two, they see themselves as their biggest marriage problem and give themselves fully to that. 3 is they're become ruthlessly committed to the marriage. And 4th, they just become known and connected to others. And so if you think about the couples that you're working with, think about those 4 things. Ask which one of those do they need to take ground in. And the next time you see a couple come to you and they want some help, or they want some advice, or some just some help, think about which one of those characteristics they need to improve on or need to grow in. And hopefully that'll be a help to you.